Time for everyone to panic?
Yes, I would, Kent.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening.
No. Wait.
Everybody stay calm. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
I am not saying calm. Panic Meter is presented by Dentech, protecting your teeth from fantasy stress one matchup at a time. And boy, are we going to need it. For a reminder for the new people out there, we have 4 tiers in the People's Panic Meter. No panic, some panic, total panic, and the coping corner. We'll see if we finally get a coping corner candidate in this episode. But let's break down these 4 major quarterback injuries that we got today, starting with the Bengals in a post-Joe Burrow world. If you have been living under a rock like Patrick Starr, and you haven't seen this yet for some reason, we found out this morning that Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow is indeed going to need toe surgery that will sideline him a minimum, and I've seen some of the doctors point out the key word here is minimum of 3 months. That would put him a timeline to return like mid-December. So Boone, what are we thinking about the Bengals now that we do not have Joe Burrow? And as we'll get to later, we're going to be watching a Jake Browning versus Vikings quarterback Carson Wentz barn burner on Sunday. So my things change quickly around here. What are your updated thoughts on the Bengals offense without Joe Burrow?
My updated thoughts is it's too early in the season for a Carson Wentz, Jake Browning matchup, but it is what it is. If we're looking at the Bengals offense now, you want to give like a blanket statement, but I feel like we have to kind of go player by player on it, because you look at Jamar Chase and what he's done with Jake Browning in the past and what he did this weekend. I think he's going to be okay. Like, there's some panic just based on the fact that the offense isn't going to be as successful. They're not going to sustain as many drives. They're not going to be in scoring position as often. But it really seems like Browning just locks in on Chase and throws to him consistently. Like 16 targets in this game where Browning played the majority of the game. If they're going to do that, and it seems like that's what Browning has done in the past as well, then Chase is going to make up for all those other things with the volume. And we know he's talented enough to score from anywhere. I think he'll probably be okay. A slight bump down for him, maybe, more of a top 5 fantasy receiver, a mid-range wide receiver 1 for fantasy and not the wide receiver 1 overall, but just a little bit of panic on him. Now, when you start to go to the other guys, that's where it starts to become concerning, because all that volume that's going Chase's way isn't necessarily going to T. Higgins. And I think that's where we get into it, and that's where it becomes more total panic for me. T. Higgins really thrives in this offense when Joe Burrow is the one slinging it around. Joe Burrow can sustain multiple fantasy producers, very high-level fantasy producers, and Jake Browning, I'm not so sure about that. So I think T. Higgins now falls down into the low-end wide receiver 2 range. Even the wide receiver 3 is going to be a really volatile asset. You're going to need him to find the end zone probably to come through for you. It's really unfortunate for a guy that had top 12 upside when Burrow was out there. Now, Chase Brown is another one where he's going to see a lot of volume, but the reason Burrow's hurt right now is because that offensive line has not been playing very well. And that also hurts Brown, right? Like, it's not doing him any favors either. So I think for him, we're kind of in between like some panic and total panic. And if I had to lean one way, it would be towards total panic, because in the ideal scenario where everyone was healthy in this offense, we saw what he could do last year and what he came through with. He was a top 10 fantasy running back. That's how I was drafting him this year. That's what we were expecting from him. Now with Jake Browning out there, I don't think his ceiling is as high. I think we're looking at him more as like an RB2. He might have some RB1 weeks when he finds the end zone, but it's a really unfortunate situation all around. And with Chase, it's like we're just kind of going, okay, he's going to get enough volume. He's talented enough. He'll get through. But you don't feel great about this offense at all when Joe Burrow's not out there under center.
I will say that, obviously since we've seen Jake Browning play for the Cincinnati Bengals before, we do have a lot of data on this. So since 2023, Joe Burrow has averaged 7.54 adjusted yards per attempt with a 50% success rate offensively. In that same time span, so since 2023, obviously it's a much smaller sample size, Jake Browning has posted 7.3 and 47.7%. We're not talking about a cataclysmic drop-off. And a big part of that is, and I know this has been a big point of consternation, not just with Bengals fans, but with NFL fans in general, is when, and you saw some of this even on Sunday, Boone, when Jake Browning's in the game, the Bengals coaching staff kind of starts to push all the little fun, buttons. They get under center more. They use more play action. If you can't tell, I wrote a piece about this for the site this morning. And remember, we are reading again in 2025. So we are reading this piece here on the website. We're reading Boone's work, all right? So make sure we're doing that. But Jake Browning, much more effective out of play action. Their plays and percentage of dropbacks with like pre-snap motion at the snap goes up from about 40, goes up to about 45% with Jake Browning from 36.3% with Joe Burrow. And a lot of that is because Joe Burrow doesn't want to necessarily play that way. He wants to get in the shotgun and be the typical field general type quarterback. But the coaching staff knows, like, yeah, Jake Browning might be a nice backup quarterback. He ain't Joe Burrow. They need to alter the offense. And I think a lot of that points to a lot of what you said about Jamar Chase, that because of, especially now, the way that they use him, which is different than the way they used him in that 2023 season, he's playing more in the slot than ever. He's running more routes off the line of scrimmage. He's in motion a lot more. I absolutely think he can still be, bare minimum, like a top 10 fantasy receiver with Jake Browning, not to mention the fact that like Jamar is just better. He's an even better player now than he was in 2023 when he had a pretty nice stretch of games with Jake Browning under center. But couldn't agree with you more that T. Higgins becomes very volatile, because what goes up, must come down in a way that if somebody's going to be getting all the move around fun stuff, and that is Jamar Chase in this offense, the guy that is going to play more on the line of scrimmage and just true X receiver stuff, the higher degree of difficulty plays in terms of the throws, that's been T. Higgins. So, I mean, I don't know what, Boone, he's still probably like a low-end wide receiver 2, maybe a high-end wide receiver 3, but I know you feel this when you do weekly rankings. The position's pretty stocked with like appealing options all throughout down the draft board that I can see with the team that's about to play. I believe they go at Minnesota, at Denver, Detroit, and then Green Bay the next 4 weeks. It's going to be tough to like really boost Higgins up the rankings in those scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Roma Dunze and stuff are moving up the board. Like, I would rather have him and play him over Higgins now, right? George Pickens, all those guys in that range. So, yeah, he's going to fall quite a bit. And it's going to look even worse, I think, coming up. And again, not as worried about Chase, but for these other guys, you look at the schedule, not to put my schedule hat on again here, Harmon, but
put it on,
the
baby.
Vikings in week 3, the Broncos in week 4, the Lions in week 5, that Packers defense in week 6. Like, if you are worried about some of these guys, you probably want to trade them as soon as you can. Like, maybe you let it kind of just wear off a little bit, hearing about the Burrow news, and later in the week you try something, but it could get ugly very, very quick with that kind of schedule coming up here over the next month or so.
I don't really know how strongly I feel about the Chase Brown stuff. He is a guy that, he's survived off volume. He is the only running back in the NFL who owns a 100% share of his team's rush attempts right now from a running back perspective, and he leads all running backs with percentage of team running back touches overall. I don't think that's going to change. I don't think anybody's coming for his job. And my kind of pet theory about this with the Jake Browning stuff is that because Browning goes under center more, 12.5% kind of he's sub 20% is Joe Burrow in terms of snaps under center since 2023. Browning is a little bit higher at 23%, 13.8% for Burrow, 23.1% snaps under center for Jake Browning. That does allow you to run the ball a little bit better, marry the run and pass game a bit better. But bottom line perspective is this Bengals team right now ranks 31st heading into Monday Night Football in yards before contact created on their running back runs. So not great. I think week 3 is a big test point for Chase Brown, because you can run on that Vikings defense, even if it's a little bit, even if it's a little bit dangerous to throw against. So I kind of come down more on some panic with Chase and some panic on Chase Brown, but definitely with you that I'm closer to total panic on the T. Higgins stuff. It just it is what it is. Okay, let's move to the next quarterback injury here. A little bit less of a deal because, man, week 1 Jets offense, we didn't see a lot of that in week 2, but Justin Fields is in concussion protocol. We actually have Aaron Glenn's soundbite on Justin Fields. If we want to hear that here, we can go ahead and play that one.
Yeah, he's in the protocol right now, and it's always a hard one to to really just try to evaluate until we get more information. So I'm sure I'll be giving you guys more information as the week progresses. Yeah.
Great update there from Coach Aaron Glenn. He's in the concussion protocol. Typically, these guys miss games with a concussion. Boone, we'll just spoil this one right now. I kind of said no panic on this one because, like, Justin Fields coming off a terrible game. Not going to get any worse, right? I mean, he set a record in terms of completion percentage under expectation. I don't know. Where are we at with the Jets after great week 1, horrific week 2 against your Bills? So I'm sure this is a game you watch closely.
Yeah, I also feel like guys in the concussion protocol, yes, a lot of them do miss at least one game, but sometimes they get cleared and sometimes they play, especially when it's a very important player. So I'm not going to rule him out just yet. And also, Tyrod Taylor's like a pretty good backup. Now, Tyrod Taylor does have like this history in recent years of when he does get his number called because the starter gets hurt, he comes in and then he kind of weirdly gets hurt either in that game or shortly after. So let's hope that doesn't happen if he does have to get out there. But when he's out there, he's not bad at all. I mean, you look at what he did in this game, right? He throws a touchdown. He runs for 21 yards. Even he could be like a fantasy option potentially in deeper leagues and super flex leagues, that sort of thing. And he can keep this offense moving because really there's only a couple guys we're looking at. We're looking at Garrett Wilson. We're looking at Breece Hall. You're not playing anybody else in this offense. So, yeah, I'm not that worried about this one. It's like you said, can't really go much lower after that Bills game. It was kind of a complete annihilation there. So let's hope for better days. Let's hope for better health for Fields. Let's get him back out there. Hopefully we can see something a little closer to what we saw in week 1, but I'm going to chalk up that week 2 performance to going up against a contending team. You know, the Bills, they just have their number. They're the best team in the division. So I'm not really going to beat them up too much about it. The reality probably lies somewhere in between what we saw in week 1, that revenge-fueled game in week 1 where they were giving it their all, and going up against the Bills. I'm not going to write them off after one bad performance because we saw what they're capable of in the opener. So whether he's out there or not this week, I'm still going to be more than fine playing Breece Hall and playing Garrett Wilson in this game. And Tyrod Taylor, like I said, in Superflex leagues, if he's going to get the start, go pick him up, get him in your lineup if you need somebody.
Yeah. Man, Tyrod Taylor's been in the league for a long time. I'm sure he's not as fast as he used to be. So I'm not totally banking on the rushing floor with Tyrod Taylor, but they do play the Bucs in week 3. So there's going to get, this is a great tweet we have right now. Yeah. Superflex League's not exactly as fun as it seems right now when we're like, all right, do we start Carson Wentz or Tyrod Taylor in my QB2 spot? But no, I think that playing the Bucs in week 3, it's definitely a gettable matchup. And, you know, from a process standpoint, I'm glad that you're kind of coming down a little bit more sober than I am on the Jets week 2 reaction. I think I was just so hyped up on what I saw in week 1 that week 2 was such a letdown. But those days are going to happen with Fields, especially against, like you mentioned, the Bills defense has problems, but they are well coached on the back end. Sean McDermott has those guys. Bobby Babich consistently disciplined back there. You still saw all the fun, like pre-snap eye candy, guys motioning at the snap, and all of the things that should create favorable opportunities for a guy like Garrett Wilson going against a Bucs secondary that is beatable in week 3. So definitely not a ton of panic for this one. And I've always been a long time Tyrod Taylor fan. So anytime we can see him take a couple snaps, I'm down for it.
I will add too, like the matchup with the Bucs, not a bad one by any means. The Dolphins in week 4, we've seen what teams have done against them. The Cowboys in week 5, you could definitely put up some points on them. The Panthers in week 7, the Bengals in week 8.
Baby.
Like the schedule here for the Jets is not bad. So yeah, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, I think they're going to be just fine. And when Justin Fields is healthy, he'll be just fine as well as that like low end QB1. You know, the ceiling was there in week 1. That was probably the best game we're going to see from him all season. Mm-hmm. So let's not expect top 5 performances every week from him. But what we thought before the year, right? He can be that solid QB1 with the odd spike week with the very high floor. I think he'll be okay.
God, man, I'm having such like a snip, snap relationship with the New York Jets. I was really intrigued going into the training camp, all the way out after the training camp reports, all the way back in after what we saw in week 1, all the way back out in week 2. And now Boone's like, check out the schedule. See, they got some good upcoming matchups. I just want good things for Garrett Wilson. I just want good things for Garrett Wilson. That's all I can say. Not good things happening with the Washington Commanders right now. Jaden Daniels has a knee injury. He is TBD on playing in week 3 against the Las Vegas Raiders. He underwent an MRI after the loss to the Packers. It looked like he had like a sprained knee situation going on. So there's at least a chance he does not play here in week 3. I would start preparing as if he is not going to play in week 3. And I don't know, Boone, this one, I don't know what to say about Washington because they're coming off such a disaster performance against the Green Bay Packers. But I think the Green Bay Packers are going to do that to a lot of people. But tell me what's good about this offense besides Jaden Daniels right now.
Well, I think the big thing for me here is that we've seen Marcus Mariota come in for him before. And Marcus Mariota played pretty good in this offense when he's come in before, right? Like he can do a lot of similar things to Jaden Daniels. And it was a small sample size last year. I mean, a week 7 was a good matchup too, going against the Panthers, but he threw for 205 yards.
Do you remember who he played? Do you remember who
it was? The Panthers, 205 yards, 2 scores, ran it 11 times for 34 yards. And that was just on 86% of the snaps. So if he had played the full game, might even been a little bit better there. Week 18, again, going against the Cowboys. So another decent matchup, but he only played 55% of the snaps in that game. 161 yards, 2 scores, ran for 56 yards and a touchdown. So he can do, it's not going to be the same. The ceiling is not the same, but my level of panic here is basically no panic unless we find out that this injury is going to be a multi-week thing. If it's just going to be him missing 1 week, I think Mariota can come in, fill in, and be just fine. They're not going to go against that Packers defense. Look at what that Packers, I am so scared of that Packers defense right now. Like I am looking at them on the schedule and I'm going to bump everybody there up against down. Like there is just no way. That defense is so good. You have to adjust your priors on that. We knew they'd be like an okay defense. We did not know that they were going to be this level of shutdown defense. So that's why I'm kind of giving the Commanders a bit of a pass in that game. And yeah, I think Mariota's going to do a decent job as the replacement quarterback there if he has to go this week and if he has to go for a couple games. If we get into like 3 games or more that Daniels has to miss with a knee sprain, then absolutely we're going to have some panic here. But for a very short stint, Mariota can step in, can do a lot of the same stuff. They'll lean on the run game a little more. We'll get to see Bill Krosky-Merritt do some stuff, hopefully. Let's see it. Let's unleash him a little bit, right? Like that last game, it made no sense to me the way they used him there. Now Austin Eckler's out for the year. You have no choice. You got to go to Bill. Let's see what he can do. And yeah, the matchups are going to get better for them. So yeah, I really don't have any panic here at all.
I think maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of a little closer to some panic, although the fact that it's the Raiders, hey, revenge game for Marcus Mariota. He used to play for the Raiders. I don't know. He actually had a couple of good moments with the Las Vegas Raiders, or maybe they were the Oakland Raiders back then. I'm a little bit closer to some panic on this team, but the fact that it is the Raiders does at least give me some, kind of sigh of relief for the passing game players. That being said, right now, Boone, I'm just not jacked up to play anybody in this offense right now. I think Terry McLaurin is predictably starting slow right now, coming off of the contract holdout. He could get it going at any time, and maybe it's this week, but I'm going to feel a little bit less optimistic about that with Mariota under center, just because it's not Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is truly that good. Debo, 0.6 air yards per target last week. I know he scored the 1 touchdown late in the game, and he's still I think a viable wide receiver 3 type player. I don't think he's bad or anything. He's had a pretty nice run out for the Washington Commanders, but they just really lack juice right now. Just really not a lot of excitement going on. They're throwing to Noah Brown and putting a serious face on about it. Don't love that. And you're talking about, it's time to unleash Bill Krosky. It's this guy's a 7th round rookie running back. This is what we're unleashing. This is our secret weapon. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting. You can tell me I'm overreacting to what we saw in week 2 with the Packers, but my worst fear about this team was that they just don't have enough pop at the skill position players to win against good teams and to be the type of offense that they were last year when they kind of took the league by surprise. Again, great defense in week 2, terrible defense from a secondary perspective in week 3 against the Raiders. So maybe they can rebound there, but coming off a game where I kind of saw my worst fears, I'm a little skeptical.
I'm just giving so much respect to that Packers defense. And if you're looking for juice, fair. Let's get JCM the ball. Let's see what he can do. We know he can break these long runs. We know he can be explosive, the most explosive back they have on their team. So let's get him more involved. I don't know why he took such a step back usage-wise in week 2, but now they have no choice. And just looking at guys specifically, I'm with you that I think Debo is like a high-end wide receiver 3 based on the way they're using him right now with that wide receiver 2 upside. And I feel a little bit better about him at the moment just because they are going to scheme him some things. Whereas Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 3, even almost like wide receiver 3 flex range until we see him do something. And it's kind of predictable, I guess, because, these guys that have the holdouts or the hold-ins or whatever it ends up being, the contract disputes before the season, they tend to start pretty slow, and we're seeing that from him right now, and he's not going to have his top quarterback out there, it seems like. So, he gets bumped down a bit. The other guy that we're not even mentioning who's doing pretty well right now is Zach Ertz. Like, keep scoring these touchdowns, getting a ton of volume. I know it seems strange. Last week, I had him as my number 2 ad in the waiver wire article at tight end, and he comes through again. I think he's somebody that people should be looking at. Another name in that low-end tight end 1, high-end tight end 2 range. Guys you could look at if there's an injury, if you're unhappy with, your starter so far, you could look at him and throw him out there, and he's an okay play. You hope that he finds the end zone, but in that range, there are a lot of tight ends right now that are going to be volatile, that are going to put up somewhere between, 30 and 60 yards. Hopefully they find the end zone, and he's right in the mix with all of them.
What has not been an okay start so far is the Minnesota Vikings offense. J.J. McCarthy is going to be out for the next 2 to 4 weeks with a very real ankle sprain. This is the most real ankle sprain that's ever occurred. Carson Wentz is going to step in as the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. They will also be without Aaron Jones this week, who has a hamstring injury. So it is the full Jordan Mason show. Boone, this is your guy, J.J. McCarthy, now dealing with another injury setback. Like on a serious note, high ankle sprain. I think you could see the play late in the game where it actually did happen and he played the rest of the game through it. But just brutal setback for a guy who obviously needs the reps as we've seen so far.
Yeah, just what a roller coaster ride so far with him, like you're mentioning. And I know I set the expectations way too high with that bold prediction before the season. He comes out, he plays 3 of the worst, quarters of quarterback play that we have seen, and then kind of salvages it with that fourth quarter. You hope that was going to be the building block for week 2, but that Falcons defense, they showed up, and he did not have a good game in week 2. And now he comes away with the injury as well. And like you alluded to, yes, he got hurt. He's not faking the injury or anything, but is the team also not just going to take this opportunity to be like, you know what, sit down, catch your breath. We've seen other teams do it. We saw Dave Canales do it with Bryce Young last year, right? Like, sit down. True. You're not playing well at the moment. Figure things out. Get comfortable, and then we'll get you back out there when you're healthy and when you kind of have your head on straight again. And Carson Wentz, that's why they brought him in, right? Like a competent backup quarterback. And I hate to go back to it, but we've seen other journeyman quarterbacks come into this offense and get things going. I also really think that, the offensive line issues they've had so far, they haven't had Christian Darrisaw yet. Hopefully he comes back soon. Ryan Kelly left. I believe he's in concussion protocol right now. So one of the things that we were looking at was that they were revamping this offensive line. They addressed a ton of things on it. You were going to have this really strong front. And so far, they haven't been out there together yet, right? So hopefully at some point soon, we're going to get that. We're going to get Jordan Addison back as well, which is going to be huge. So moving forward, I still think this thing is going to get figured out. And I think the Vikings offense is going to be one that you want to invest in. But at the moment, Carson Wentz out there, Justin Jefferson takes a hit here. Justin Jefferson, he'll get a ton of volume. It's a little bit like the Jamar Chase situation. He's going to get a lot of volume, but I think you got to bump Jefferson down now to the low end wide receiver 1 range, just based on the way this offense has looked. And now we have another quarterback switch going on here. TJ Hawkinson is a guy that I think you could probably send to your bench at this point until we see something change. You really hope that early in the season, without Addison out there, he was going to be able to put up some good numbers, and it's not happening for him based on the way this offense looks right now. So some of those, tight ends that we've talked about on the waiver wire that we'll talk about later today, some of those guys you could actually play over Hawkinson. I wouldn't drop Hawkinson, but I would send him to my bench. I wouldn't want to have to start him at the moment. And then, I'm not really looking at anybody else in the pass catching core, but in the backfield, we've got another injury, right? Aaron Jones with the hamstring. Sounds like he's probably going to miss this game. So now you have Jordan Mason, who's someone I really like who we got for this exact reason, right? Aaron Jones, an older running back, a guy who had these soft tissue injuries, and now he's going to miss time. So Jordan Mason, to me, they're going to have to lean on him, I think, with Carson Wentz out there. And I really like what he's done so far. I'd like to see him get more touches, and he's going to get that opportunity now. So I think Jordan Mason, weirdly, is a guy that might actually benefit from this. It's like reverse panic meter for him. But for the rest of that offense, I'm not panicking long-term. I think the short term, it's unfortunate for a guy like Hawkinson, but long-term, I don't have much panic. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to get this figured out. And maybe that's just my foolish, blind faith in Kevin O'Connell. But there's so much talent here. When everybody gets healthy, when everybody gets back, I think this offense will be fine in the long run.